Так, буде ялинка.
Буде ялинка, так?
Так, буде ялинка для діток.
Йолки, ялинка.
February 2014, after around 100 protesters were killed during Euromaidan, Ukrainian Minister of Internal Affairs Arsen Avakov announced the dissolution of the Special Police Division Berkut.
Підписав, усвідомлюючи, що ці спецпідрозділи повністю дискредитували себе перед українським народом.
Some of the officers fled Ukraine. Some were sent to serve in the anti-terrorist operation in eastern Ukraine. Many others continued to serve in the same division, now called the Special Police Regiment. Some, despite participating in the violent dispersion of protesters from Euromaidan, are now being tried in court. What has changed? What actually happened to Berkut? And who is in charge of the Special Regiment today? On February 20, 2016, Ukraine was mourning the fallen heroes of the Heavenly Hundred. Meanwhile, former Berkut officers, among them current police officers, were commemorating their own colleagues. This is rare footage. The Special Regiment avoids publicity. During the brief ceremony, the veterans' speeches are emotional, but concise.
Те, що відбулося на тенетах України, вона на совісті людей, які прийшли в 2014 році до влади. Ви мене розумієте. І час розставить все на свої місця. Повірте мені.
We've been filming former Berkut officers periodically for the past 2 years. Now they're called the Special Police Regiment. Its base is the same place that Berkut used to be. Most of its officers are former members of the Berkut Special Forces. None of them want to talk to us on camera about the time before Euromaidan, let alone Euromaidan itself. Off camera, they talk a lot, mostly about injustice. They say none of their high-ranking authorities had to answer for the crimes committed at Euromaidan. Therefore, those ranked lower are on trial.
Основне ваше завдання сьогодні – це профілактика і боротьба з тими злочинами, які відбуваються в місті Києві. Ви знаєте, скільки зброї завезено в місто Київ, скільки у нас кожен день фіксується угонів автотранспорту, скільки у нас скоюється грабежів, розбіїв і так далі. Тому основна ваша задача, якщо є виклик на розбій, на грабеж, на угон, працюємо до кінця, відпрацьовуємо і працюємо на результат.
Some officers complain, why does the entire regiment have to take responsibility for mistakes of certain individuals?
Життя найвища цінність по Конституції. Якщо ви його цінуєте, то що? Питання до мене, по темі ініціативи.
This footage is from the Berkut base in 2016, a morning formation. The Special Police Regiment performs the same duties that Berkut once did: public security, patrolling. They're skeptical about being separate from Ukraine's new patrol police, whose tablet PCs and uniforms elicit envy. They may be more hip, but they lack experience, they say. Here in particular, we hear criticism of the Georgian-American know-how employed in the Ukrainian police reforms, and also a lot of jokes. In 2016, this corridor was still graced by a photo of Berkut's most respected officers, including Dmytro Sadovnik and Oleg Yanishevsky, who today are on trial, accused of shooting protesters on Institutskaya Street in February 2014, and also Berkut commander Sergei Kusyuk, who fled to Moscow. The officers refer to them as authorities and professionals. They avoid answering our questions about the shootings or say their superiors could not have done it. Then they add, according to the law on the militia, those officers had the right to, in their words, defend themselves. The regiment honours the history of the Berkut division. They even maintain a tiny museum here containing uniforms and insignia.
Був сформований і адаптований уже форманий одяг спецпідрозділів. Це міський камуфляж, який ми мали до 2014 року.
Блакитний такий, так, камуфляж? Ну, тобто камуфляж?
Та, звичайний камуфляж підрозділів, які ми пам'ятаємо до 2014 року.
А тут немає його, так?
А він є на фото. Ось, будь ласка, фото. От, можливо, фото ви побачите.
Да.
Це звичайний камуфляж, який був впізнаваний для спецпідрозділів.
The uniform and insignia are still treated with deep respect. Symbols of Berkut have de facto been banned, but some people caringly store their blue camouflage in wardrobes. The insignia of the new police regiment still includes the eagle.
Ви заправились? Ну, это как бы просто переименовали. Ну, то есть, например. Ну, конечно, трудно было смириться, что такое подразделение, раз сколько лет отдал работе там. Ну, если бы сказали, что вообще, ну, например, расформировали, вот здание разобрали, там вообще убрали, зачистили территорию, вот, например, так. Ну, все осталось, ну, на базе все осталось. Там. Люди остались некоторые. Зараз підійдемо на адрес, треба буде нам там перевірити інформацію. Людина якась підозріла по будинку, ходить з рюкзаком на спині.
This is Yaroslav. 2 years ago, Hromadske journalists accompanied him on patrol. They had a relatively quiet evening. A man in the park with a broken leg, a couple of false alarms, like this one. A tipsy security guard confused a repairman with a robber.
Ремонтників зі злодіями.
Пили сьогодні щось?
Не отрицаю.
Що пили сьогодні?
Пиво. До цього конфлікту.
До цього конфлікту.
Конечно.
Скільки часу пройшло? От моменту, коли ви закінчили пити пиво.
Ну, минут 10.
Минут 10. Ми вже минут 10 стоїмо тут.
Не минут 10.
А скільки?
Ну, яка різниця? Ну, я вам приблизно
Хорошо,
сказав.
добре. Ви знаєте, що на роботі у вас ви не повинні употребляти спиртні напої?
Звісно, знаю.
Чого ви употребляєте?
But not all patrols look like this. 1 year prior, 2 of Yaroslav's colleagues were shot to death at a gas station. Yaroslav said that in the police regiment, practically nothing has changed, aside from its name and uniform. And although Berkut's reputation has been ruined, he will not leave his job.
Ну, а работать-то кому-то ж надо.
However, it's not just a matter of reputation. After undergoing reassessment tests, nearly 30% of former Berkut officers joined the Kyiv Special Police Regiment. For a long time, it was headed by those accused of forcefully dispersing the Euromaidan protests. It's November 30, 2013. Berkut is dispersing the protesters on Euromaidan. This is Sergei Kusuk, the former commander of the Special Police Division Berkut. After Euromaidan, he fled to Russia, and the Ukrainian Prosecutor General's office put out a search warrant for him. Today, he's a colonel in the Russian Oman Special Police Force. And this is Andrei Diduk, one of Kusuk's deputies. In 2015, he was accused of participating in the dispersion of activists from Maidan in November 2013. His case is still in court. However, in 2016, he was still a commander of the Special Police Regiment, number 1. This is yet another former Berkut deputy commander, now retired. Mykola Takniryadna is being tied together with Diduk.
Ви задоволені? Так ви задоволені операцією?
Не заважайте працювати.
Ви порахували, скільки голів розбили?
Не заважайте працювати.
Я вас питаю, я вам не заважаю.
In this footage of the night of the dispersion, the man standing next to Tekniryadna looks a lot like the former commander of Berkut's auto transport unit, Ruslan Tsukaluk. His story is even more interesting.
І ще цікавіше.
Ruslan Tsukaluk did not escape to Russia. He faces no accusations and is not evading investigators. Things have gone much better for him than for other former Berkut commanders. In 2014, after Berkut was dissolved, he kept working in the Special Police Regiment. In 2015, he became deputy commander. By 2016, he had also become the regiment's chief of staff, and in 2017, on the 29th anniversary of the regiment's establishment, practically the anniversary of Berkut, he became its head.
Police Lieutenant Colonel Ruslan Tsikhalyuk is appointed commander of the Special Police Regiment by the order of the head of the National Police Force in Kyiv on December 13, 2017, for his personal and professional qualities, exemplary work, responsibility and scrupulous attitude toward performing his duties.
At least 2 law enforcement officers, who asked to remain anonymous, said that it is a well-known fact that Tsikhalyuk was on the Maidan during the dispersion. However, he has refused to comment on the video footage.
Щодо 30 листопада 2013 року. У нас є відео, власне...
Звертайтесь, будь ласка, в центр комунікації, Володимирська 15.
Ми розуміємо, але у нас є відео, де, власне, зафіксовано, що ви там були.
Я там не був, шановна.
30 листопада. Ви можете подивитися відео, будь ласка, і скажіть, що ви там робили тоді, 30 листопада? Ви там просто поряд з Миколою Тягнорядном, Дедюком. І нас, як журналістів, цікавить...
Не заважайте мені працювати.
Я не заважаю вам працювати.
Не заважайте мені працювати.
Пане Руслане.
The former leaders of the division, now on trial, also refused to comment on the video.
Відмовляється.
Я його там не бачив.
Я вам можу показати відео.
Я вам кажу, що я його там не бачив. Не бачив я його там.
Він поряд з вами стоїть, ходить, і ви його не бачите.
Я кажу, що я його там не бачив.
Є Руслан Тsikhalyuk, і він знаходиться поряд з вами, з Миколою Тягнорядном. Він тоді був з вами поряд, ви знаєте, так, про це?
Є слідчі, ви до них зверніться.
Що тоді робив Руслан Tsikhalyuk там?
Я не пам'ятаю. Я не пам'ятаю.
Що він там робив і чиї накази він...
Я взагалі не пам'ятаю, чи він там був.
Він був, от подивіться відео. Він тут, це він. Будь ласка, ну він там точно був.
Є потерпілі, там є свідки, нехай вони дивляться згідно чинного законодавства, нехай це все проходить правильно. І був керівник підрозділу на той час, може його який командував. Якщо він там був, то можливо, які його команди виконували. Дивіться, це не зовсім буде навіть правильно, те, що я зараз буду щось дивитися і вам коментувати.
Чому?
Ну тому що є прокуратура, є слідчі органи, нехай вони...
Але просто підтвердити.
Нехай вони це розбираються, ну це не зовсім правильно.
The head of Kyiv's police force, who appointed Tsikhalyuk head of the special regiment, believes these questions should be addressed by the criminal investigation, not him.
I am aware that Tsikhalyuk has not been held accountable, and he has not been dismissed from service. I have no further comment. I repeat, I have nothing more to say. The Prosecutor General will decide whether or not he committed any crimes. I haven't seen the video. I don't have time to watch it.
We also turned to the Prosecutor General's office, but did not receive any detailed information.
The person in question has been questioned as a witness in a number of criminal proceedings, based on facts of illegal actions by law enforcement officers and judges toward participants in the protests that took place between November 2013 and February 2014.
Sidhi Kolosha, who was injured during the dispersion of Euromaidan, has been conducting his own investigation over the past 5 years. He has compared uniforms, two-way radios, and has identified tens of Special Forces officers. He is sure that the man in this footage from November 30 is Tsikhalyuk.
Here is a heavy-set man holding a radio with the same markings as the one in the video and photos we looked at. He is performing actions that could be characterized as directing the herding of people into an underground passageway. Here you see people, most likely Kyiv Berkut officers, following the orders to disperse the protesters given by Deputy Commander Deduk, who before this was directing the beating and dispersal of people from around the central column on Euromaidan, continuing to push citizens into the underground passageway. And here is our potential 2013 commander of the Auto Transport Unit. This headset he's wearing is another sign he's not a regular officer. Those don't have headsets. Regular officers have bulletproof vests, assault equipment, and protective gear for their arms and legs.
In this video, a man who looks like Tsikhalyuk is pulling a protester from the crowd. Even if Tsikhalyuk himself did not use undue force, he, like the rest of the law enforcement officers, was obliged to report the violence employed by other Special Forces officers. However, this was not done. We decided to ask the developers of a face recognition system to perform an analysis. The program calculates the number of coinciding elements in an image and analyzes the face.
Here is the first photo. There are 68 points on the face, which it located in this square. And according to these points, the system draws its conclusions. We don't know whether the system measures the distance between the eyes, or between the eye and nose or chin. It works a bit like a black box. Here is the second photo, which we compared with the first. Again, you can see the facial features. Based on these points, the system calculates a unique 128-dimensional vector for each person, which it uses to draw a conclusion. Here is the first photo and the second. second. We compare them. This is a sort of visualization of what the system does. The similarity of these photos is 97%. This is definitely the same person.
Lawyer Yevgenia Zakrevska, who represents the families of the Heavenly 100 protesters killed on Euromaidan, took part in the process of reassessing law enforcement officers' fitness to serve in the post-Maidan police. She says there were enough mechanisms for identifying the criminals and only allowing professionals to remain in the force.
The police was supposed to conduct independent investigations into the illegal actions of its officers during the Euromaidan protests. This was done to some extent. However, when the police conducted its own investigations, no problems turned up. Their investigation was essentially void.
According to Zakrevska, the reassessment was a failure.
I don't know what happened with the reassessment. Practically, nothing happened. The Berkut officers did not even have to face a committee that included members of the public. They were examined by the security police. Their assessment and interviews took place behind closed doors. There were practically no witnesses. Some officers were not reassessed at all. This is a procedure that when someone stands accused, the prosecution has the opportunity to petition for that person, if they are an active law enforcement officer, to be dismissed from duty for the duration of the investigation. The prosecution did make several such petitions in the beginning, but none were fulfilled, neither by law enforcement agencies nor by the court.
If Tsukaluk really did participate in the clearing of Euromaidan and now commands the special regiment in the reformed police, who should have prevented this and how? What should have been done with the entire Berkut division following the revolution?
Well, that's a tough question, and there is no simple answer. I can say that in those circumstances, as the war was beginning in 2014, it was very hard to think of any option. It wasn't possible to take a large number of special police force officers and just dump them on the street in one fell swoop. So they kept them. People thought that Berkut had been dissolved, but in actuality it was not. The officers stayed at their bases. Only the name Berkut was removed. On the one hand, I understand the apprehension of those then in power and of Minister Avakov. They couldn't just throw these people out, for they could become, and they did become, a strong fighting force in various separatist anti-Ukrainian demonstrations, as it happened in Crimea, in Donetsk, Luhansk and Kharkiv. On the other hand, to turn them into patriots, ready to accept and serve the leaders the people fought for, with a mere wave of the hand, that would have been impossible. I think what should have been done was to find ways to quickly conduct an objective investigation into the crimes committed during the protests, which never happened. And I think at this point, we can no longer expect it. If anything, some individuals will be punished.
We tried to ask Minister of Internal Affairs Arsen Avakov about the special regiment and about the police officers who continue to hold high positions in spite of what happened on Maidan.
Міністр, доброго дня. Громадське телебачення, Вікторія. У нас питання до вас одне з приводу колишніх екс-беркутівців, котрі досі працюють у поліції. Власне, у 2014 році... Доброго дня.
Доброго дня. Ми не будемо
Я розумію. Можна, будь ласка?
Я буду робити те, що
Я розумію. Можна нас питання задати вам? Я дуже хотіла уточнити у вас, чому так сталося?
Не заважайте.
Пане міністре, будь ласка, можна одне питання? Ми дуже довго намагалися зв'язатися з вами. Можна, пожалуйста, не трогать мене? Пане міністре, можна...
Ви в такий спосіб коментар ніякий від мене не отримаєте.
Ну просто, який спосіб? Ми намагалися 100 разів до вас достукати.
Everything moves in a spiral. Everything has been going toward this point we've come to. I don't want to say any more. I just want to read this poem by Vitaly Bolotov, a former Kyiv resident and now a Kharkiv resident. Young men were standing like a wall, as the herd in parliament divided the country amongst themselves, dreaming of new privileges. They stood in the rain, they stood in the snow, they stood and endured spitting and swearing. They stood, more courageous than anyone. They kept standing because they're soldiers. They stood still as steel, not sparing their bodies. They burnt in the flame of financed chaos. They were betrayed 100 times and will be betrayed again. Our Berkut stood, our special forces. The young men stood, miraculously. Glory to the heroes. This is for them, our Ukrainian martyrs. Glory to Berkut. Glory, glory, glory.